I got a little
I believe now we are live.
Yay!
Very good. Very good.
Welcome, everybody. We're only 22 minutes late. No big deal.
That's right.
Welcome, everybody, to the Donut Bag Podcast Live, our second live streaming endeavor. We are. This is your first time. This is your first time live with us. We actually had a comments and then live audience. We had people listening and like people are jumping on now. Hi everybody.
Hi
crazy.
Everyone. Hello.
Hi everyone.
Yes.
We had a couple comment. We had a lot of people last week.
Yeah. So I believe if you want to enter comments into our chat, you have the only way to do that I believe is through YouTube. If you go through that way, which is perfect because I would love if you like and subscribe. See, I'm becoming an actual podcast now, asking people to like and subscribe. Pretty soon I'll have
that's hardcore,
sponsors
Joe. You've come a long way.
Like you know, I want to be sponsored by Chico's bail bonds or something like that. Okay, so let's get to it. We talked last week. Darren, you were skeptical about the Steelers winning. I was a little bit hopeful. I put the Steelers' chances of winning at about 25%. Allison, what did you think before the game? What did you think their actual chances of winning?
Yeah, I didn't think that they were going to win at all. I never really put a percentage to it, but I did. There was a moment there where I was a little bit like, okay, we beat them earlier in the season. If we could just play like that, right? If we could just play like we played them week 12 or whatever it was, then we'll be okay. And then I thought, well, gosh, the last 4 games, right? We have not, you know what I mean? And I'm like, if we come out like that, we're not going to win. And the Ravens, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but they just showed the Steelers so many different things. And it was just like, what is going on? And they couldn't stop any of it.
I don't know what they showed. I don't know if the Steelers beat themselves. Darren, did you give them any chance before the game? Winning.
And it's not like a pessimistic thing or like pow on the Steelers. It's just two different teams moving in two different directions. And, you know, I think we said, well, hey, you know, if anybody could upset the Ravens, it would be the Steelers in Baltimore because of the history. Well, unfortunately, the history for the Steelers has gotten progressively worse while Baltimore's gotten progressively better. And you have a 5-game losing streak going in against a 4-game winning streak. And so, you know, I think it was a matter of time. And you know, arguably, the Ravens have been one of the hottest teams in the NFL. It wasn't a good recipe, and nothing the Steelers showed us against Cincinnati or Kansas City or anything showed us remotely any type of competitiveness in them, right? They, you know, if they would have lost to Kansas City 29-28 or 29-27 or something where the Bengals was double overtime or whatever, you know, it would have been something, but it just hasn't looked good. And the thing that really got me, and I don't want to jump too far ahead of what we're doing here tonight, guys, but the thing that really got to me is many Pittsburgh media members yesterday said how they were in the locker room after the game, there was a little bit of jubilation and a sense of relief. No quietness, no sadness like is usually associated when you lose a playoff game or something like that. And I really feel like you saw, and then if you watched any of the media this morning, even NFL teams or former NFL players were saying, look like the Steelers quit. It looked like they kind of quit.
The media was saying that the players were happy that it was over.
It seemed a couple of them quoted saying a sense of relief is what they felt in the locker room. You know, players were, you know, chatting. They were, you know, kind of whatever, you know, and they were not like, you know, hanging their heads. They weren't a quiet sadness, you know, like when they lost to Jacksonville a couple of years ago, it was just complete silence in that locker room, total disappointment. So that tells you that expectations just weren't there, right? You know, it's like, you know, when my beloved Nittany Lions lost the other day, Joe, I saw your little Seinfeld meme, very funny. When they lost, you know, there was a real chance that a lot of Penn Staters felt, well, at least we can get to a national championship. Could we beat Ohio State? Probably not. They're just too hot right now. But I mean, and they played very well in that game for the most part, and then to come up short, that's a deafening loss. That is when players go back in the locker room and they're inconsolable. They're crying. They're disappointed. You saw none of that in the Steelers locker room afterwards. And it was more, again, a sense of, well, at least the end of the season's here.
Right. Yeah, that's sad.
When I, when the Steelers lost to the Bengals a couple weeks ago, and people said, "Oh no, now we could have had an easy path to play the Texans, and now we got to play the Ravens. Oh no!" And I was one of the few people that said, "I'd rather play the Ravens." You don't know what you're getting in Houston, but you know what you're getting with the Ravens. The Steelers and Ravens are a storied history. They fight like hell. They beat each other up, but there's that respect, and they hit each other hard, but there's that respect there.
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
don't
why
know
it was the
what
8
the
o'clock
hell
game.
happened.
It's why it was the 8
Right.
o'clock game, right? I mean, that's why it was an 8 o'clock game.
Mm-hmm.
And you even heard, during the broadcast saying that, this is not the Steelers who we've seen. And it's not. I mean, they give up 300 yards rushing. I mean, there was the Steelers going into this game, and really for the most part of the season, to me, and glaringly now, guys, they have no identity. I mean, they're not a great defensive team. They're not a great running team. They're not great against the pass. They don't have an elite passing attack. They have none of those things.
Mm-hmm.
They have zero identity. And that's a problem, right? You look at the Eagles, say, okay, across the state, they are a decent passing team. Hurts is struggling a little bit still, but they're a great running team. And even the Steelers said after playing them, a lot of teams have said that not the knock. The thing about the Eagles playing Eagles is they hit hard, and you've played them, right? We have none of that. We have Steelers might not be good, but damn well you sure enough feel it the next day. We have none of that. T.J. Watt, whether he's been playing or hurt, how hurt I don't know, but he's been invisible for the most part. Minka wouldn't talk to the media yesterday, had nothing to say he could add. And then, once again, you can always count on George Pickens to say something. And yesterday it was like, do you see yourself having anything going forward? Nah. He just did not see anything coming with this offense. So it's bad all around.
What was interesting about Pickens' comments is at first he said, I've seen growth. Like I've seen growth from last year.
He actually said something sort of professional for once.
Right. Yeah. And then he said, somebody asked him, is there promise for the future or whatever? And he's like, no. So I'm like, I felt like they were, you know what I mean? Like they weren't, you know what I mean? Like it would be both of them or neither of them, but not one or the other.
Pickens was actually not the problem. But there were a million other problems. Mm-hmm. But the main thing that I just cannot get past, and Aaron, you already alluded to this, they gave up. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's unforgivable. They went through the motions. They made business decisions. That's unforgivable. I don't care what's going on. You play your hardest. You should be damn lucky to make the playoffs and to be and honored and privileged that you got this far, that you made the playoffs. And instead, they were defeated before the game even started. It's like you said, they were happy it was over. You have to be kidding me. You're a professional athlete. Shame on you.
If you look at the opposing 6th seed in the NFC, which is the Washington Commanders, so soon they're going to be the Redskins or whatever it's going to be, they were competitive last night. They acted like they hadn't been there before. They really hadn't been there in a while. We had beat them earlier in the season, and that Steelers team was a lot different than the one that showed up Saturday. And the Commanders go into Tampa against a red-hot quarterback and come away with a win. Jaden Daniels was fantastic in that final drive. I don't think the Commanders are going to advance past the next round. They're dangerous enough that they could. But that's the kind of spunk and spontaneity and energy the Steelers used to have. This is a team that used to have a lot of pride and that identity I talked about before. Right now, there's no pride. There's no identity. And the story, guys, the story is not what do the Steelers need to do. The story is what the ownership won't do and isn't doing. That's the story. Because if you're just going to bring Tomlin back, which they shouldn't, and he shouldn't have gotten the extension that he did, you're doing nothing. And I'm just kind of waiting now at this point to see who the scapegoat's going to be.
Yeah, I feel like what they need to do is, like, none of us really know how the Steelers organization is truly run behind the scenes. But I think what they need to do, Tomlin has too much power, he seems to, from what I'm hearing, what we're all hearing is he has control over every aspect of the team, from the offense to the defense, special teams. He has too much control. The players will always say they want to play for him. The players have come out and said, I want to play for Tomlin. TJ Watt said he wants to stay there. Pat Freiermuth says, Tomlin is amazing or whatever. Then what we need, he just needs to be the head coach.
And play like it.
Right. He needs to be the head coach and have an offensive coordinator who has his own brain, a defensive coordinator who has his own brain. And Danny Smith, he's got his gum and that's fine. You know what I mean? But it's like, he just has, I feel like he has too much say over everything. And that's what's killing the Steelers.
They always talk about this relationship and these guys say it, but I guarantee you, if you said, hey, what would you rather have, a career that had a great relationship with the coach or a Super Bowl ring? Marquise Pouncey, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward would all say, I would like a ring. Ben would have said, I'd like more rings. AB, Lev Bell, all of them. And those players have floundered and should have done more and been more, and they haven't under Mike Tomlin. Right. And that to me is a big part of the problem. And the bigger problem, and I've said this before, Joe, and I'll say it again. I said it on Pompiani's thing the other night. Dan Rooney, when he passed away, I feel that was the big blow because Art II has not embraced his team. He's not as active. Last year, he's like, well, I demand better play. How do you do that? You give an extension to a guy that hasn't won a playoff game in almost 8 years, and in 4 out of 14, you're rewarding complacency, mediocrity. You're embracing it. You're not doing what these teams need to do. If Mike Tomlin was a coach of any NFL team at this point, he would have been fired. Anyone. The Steelers are the only organization tolerating his ineptitude.
Yeah. Dan Rooney, he was embedded with it, with Art, or with the Chief, and it's like it's a totally different dynamic now, and it you can tell what the difference is. But I feel like the common denominator is Mike Tomlin here, right? Because it's like, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with the Rooney thing, but it's like in terms of at the team level, it seems like no matter what coordinators we get, no matter what quarterbacks we have, no matter what roster we have, the common denominator for these lackluster seasons under Mike Tomlin is Mike Tomlin. And, so you just wonder, what the heck.
The one thing that you do hear that I don't think you hear TJ Watt saying is Art Rooney is actually fairly cheap when it comes to a lot of things. The Steelers are one of the only teams that do not have a sauna down there. They do not have a family area for family, players' wives, and kids and stuff like that. Like most NFL other teams do, including everyone in the NFL AFC North. And so he is not going to pay Mike Tomlin, because I'm already seeing a chatter. Bring in Mike McCarthy. He's a local guy. Dallas Cowboys fired him. Bring in Mike McCarthy. They are not going to pay Mike McCarthy's salary and Mike Tomlin's salary. That is not going to happen. He will not do that.
What's Tomlin's salary? I heard like 17, anywhere between 16 and 18 million.
Something like that.
For the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
you're not paying him and then somebody else, 10, 15, 20 million.
Right.
No. That's not happening. So, I mean, and you saw that immediately we get that the scoop from Jerry Dulac. Yeah, the ownership is not even thinking about getting rid of Tomlin.
Right.
And I don't even know. Yeah.
Even though fans are screaming for it, the media is screaming for it, even the national media, who doesn't know what the hell is going on and was kissing Tomlin's butt for years, even they've started to figure out, hey, something's not right here.
Allison said something earlier I thought was a good point, and I'll touch on too. And I think she said it in a roundabout way, but with Mike Tomlin too, it's he controls so much, but he has his hand on everything. And the thing that I've always thought, and I could be wrong in this, but this is my view, and I think it's fairly accurate considering the history. His coaching tree sucks, right? Mm-hmm. Bill Cowher had 11 coaches going to be head coaches. He doesn't seem to want to bring in any assistants that will know more than he does or as much as he does and hand that off. Like, I think he tolerated Dick LeBeau because LeBeau kind of was legacied in, right? And remember when Dick LeBeau was here, nothing wrong with the defense when Dick LeBeau was here. Ever since Dick LeBeau was left, not been the same. You look at Dan Campbell, the Detroit Lions coach. He's, and one of the local Pittsburgh media guys says he's like a meathead. I agree. He's a fun-loving meathead. He'll tell you that he's a meathead, but he also hires 2 great assistants The Detroit Lions are where they are now because they have great coaching and a great coaching staff, right? Bill Cowher, kind of a meathead too, right? But he wasn't afraid to have Dick LeBeau. He wasn't afraid to have some great offensive coordinators along the way. And that's just what it is. It's not necessarily a knock on Terrell Austin or Arthur Smith, but I don't know, Joe. And to Allison's point again, it's like he wants to keep them down and he wants to be the show. Well, it's not working, pal.
There are two main problems with this team: the construction of the roster and the coaching. Not just Tomlin, but like you said, the assistant coaches. He had Matt Canada, who barely belongs. He's not even good enough to work the cashier at a supermarket. We're talking, he is bagging material. I don't even want him bagging my groceries because he's going to put the eggs at the bottom.
He won't double bag.
He will definitely not double bag. He doesn't know what double bag means. He can't count the two. You had Matt Canada there for way too long, and from what I understand, finally Rooney said, "Hey, you got to get rid of this guy, or the players had a mutiny, or whatever." Defensive coordinators. Really, Tomlin's a defensive coordinator, but Terrell Austin hasn't done much. Even before that, you had Keith Butler, who sucked, Randy Fichtner, who wasn't anything. You have this crap, and we need new ideas. Arthur Smith, it was a step in the right direction, but I think Arthur Smith is told, hey, make sure you're ultra conservative so I can let my beloved defense win the game, because we saw how that works out.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it just goes to show, like, Detroit Lions, right? Hot coaches, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, they're both being interviewed for head coaching positions. And you name one time that's happened with in Tomlin's tree, you know what I mean, where they've gone on to be like head coaches. You know, and the last time that
Bruce
happened
Arians,
was
that's the only one.
Arians and Weisenhunt, but even then, was Arians a Tomlin hire, or was he a carryover from Cowher?
Ooh, I think he was
right.
I think he was actually a Cowher guy. You're right.
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing.
Guy.
I feel like I don't think that anybody that Tomlin's,
because I think he was like the wide receiver coach or something like that under Cowher or something.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, what is that? That should be all you need. All that needs to be said about that, right? It's like these guys should be future head coach material that he has on his staff, and he refuses to do that.
When you look at that staff too, the makeup of the roster is a big thing. And I think now, and Joey said this for years on this show, you are seeing now, if you haven't seen it before, what it's like to miss a quarterback the caliber of Ben Roethlisberger, because his talent alone kept us in a lot of games, right? Especially and the other thing is, the more Tomlin has moved away from Bill Cowher's players, the worse he has become, the worse the team's gone. And when you look at the teams that are in there playing, you have you have Joe Burrows, who's an elite quarterback. He's probably the only elite quarterback sitting at home because the team is so bad around him defensively. But you have Lamar Jackson, you have you have Josh Allen, you have Mahomes. Those are the level of quarterbacks you need. Now, I'm not saying they need to go out and get Patrick Mahomes, but they need a quarterback of a similar level if they're going to succeed too. So the roster stunk. Tomlin, I think, and the staff has juggled, whoever you want to point the finger at. Kenny Pickett was a bust, horrible first-round pick. They have not been able to replace Ben to any point at all. Wilson was good for about a month and a half, and the last month and a half he stunk. So it's inconsistent play from him. And then the other thing too is the running back, Joe. I think that, they could have easily afforded Derrick Henry. They technically could have afforded Saquon Barkley. And there's just some guys out there that they could have gone. Josh Jacobs is another guy. It's like I remember years ago, Bob Pompiani was a pretty level-headed guy. He actually kind of went off as much as he went off when the St. Louis Cardinals signed Paul Goldschmidt. At the time, he was NL Player of the Year, Gold Glove winner. He goes to St. Louis, wins a couple more Golden Gloves, NL MVP once, and now he's kind of trailed off. But he got him for like $10 million. The Pirates could have easily afforded that. So now you're in this stratosphere where you're comparing the Steelers and the Pirates and the way they spend money and the way they go out and get free agents. Because, look at the Eagles. Again, Jalen Hurts, okay. Not great. A.J. Brown, a great receiver. He's just not getting the ball to him as much as he should. But Saquon Barkley's putting that team on his back.
Mhm.
You know, if you would have brought Derrick Henry here, and I'm sorry, Najee Harris is good as gone anyway. Najee Harris is no Derrick Henry, guys. Derrick Henry could have been a difference maker in this team, provided the offensive line would have played well, but they also played horribly the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks too.
Yeah. My concern. Go ahead, Joe.
It's like you said, Darren. Until you have an elite quarterback, you're never going anywhere. And if you say, oh, well, then they're screwed because when are they going to get an elite quarterback? They're never going to be bad enough to draft high to get one of the elite quarterbacks. You know, it's like, look around. Jalen Hurts was a 2nd-round pick. Mahomes went 10th overall. That's doable. You don't have to draft top 5 to get a good quarterback. You could get one in later rounds or later in the first round or something like that. You just gotta hit on one. And honestly, it's like it should be like a slot machine. Keep on trying until you get it. Keep on drafting. Keep on getting people. I mean, look at Washington. Washington, what did they win last year?
Right.
4 games or something like that. Look at them now because they have a potential superstar quarterback, and until you get one, you're never beating Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen in the playoffs. Let alone any other team. Think about going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'll take it one step further and say I don't think that we have the right head coach, even if we did say, because there's a lot of talk about how, what if we had Jalen Hurts, or what if we had gotten Lamar Jackson. Mike Tomlin hasn't shown, or his assistant staffs, anybody that he hires, hasn't shown that they have the ability to develop a quarterback. They play players out.
They haven't had any good ones
at certain positions, and then they play them out of the position, and then they wonder why they're not that as good as they were, or why the offensive line isn't gelling. Like it seems like they draft players, and then they're just like, you know what I mean? Like what now?
Well, and I think everybody points to, we never had a losing season. Yeah, that's great. Nobody cares. I don't.
Yeah.
Because everyone says, Cowher had some 7-9 and a 6-10 season. Yeah, you know what? And that afforded them the ability to draft a Ben Roethlisberger. It afforded them the ability to draft a Troy Polamalu. It afforded them the ability to draft guys like Plexico Burst, whoever, the impact players. And they have none. They have none because they keep drafting between 20 and 30 every year because they finish 10-7 or they limp across at 9-8 or whatever. And everybody's so happy and they say he's never had a losing season. It's all he does is win. It's not all he does. He wins in a regular season. Nobody cares. He is Marvin Lewis 2.0.
Oh, you caught me. That's okay. I'll bring up that stat right now. Because actually this is now I heard this from Adam Crowley. So I'm crediting where I heard this. Marvin Lewis from 2011 to 2015 had a 658 winning percentage in the regular season, and in the playoffs, I believe there were four times made the playoffs. He was outscored by 62 overall. Mike Tomlin from 2017 to 2024, a 615 winning percentage, even a worse winning percentage, 0-5 in the playoffs, outscored by 63. Basically, Mike Tomlin is Marvin Lewis right now. And what did we say about Marvin Lewis? He had to go because there was no way he was going to win. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, and the same
100%.
The same goes here, but he's got that contract. He's got a no trade clause. He's got all that, whatever. He's got the comfortability. You know what I mean? Like, we're stuck.
Here's one reason why you're right that Tomlin is not the right person for the job. We just talked about we need an elite quarterback. We need an elite quarterback. Well, what do you need an elite quarterback for? So you can have an elite offense. How are the Steelers constructed? Defense.
Run the ball defense.
Run the ball defense.
Is this the 1970s? Is this the 1970s?
Exactly. And you know what? If it works, that's cool. If it works and you say, hey, let's zag when everybody zigs, fine. But it doesn't work. I was looking at, it's like, okay, who's going to be free agents and stuff like that? So let me look at the salary cap. Oh, okay. Well, TJ Watt's number 1 with 30 million. Okay. Minka, second with 22 million. Okay. Cam Hayward, third, 19 million. Okay. Alex Highsmith is fourth with 18 million. Patrick Queen, seventh with 18 million. You got to go almost to the top 10 before you get an offensive player, and that's Pat Freiermuth. They spent all this money on defense, and what did it get them? It got them an uninterested, lethargic, not giving a crap, can't wait for the season to get over, miscommunication, bunch of crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well put.
Where if you look at, and here's the thing, like somebody name me one player from the Commanders defense.
No, I don't know any.
They're top 10. They're a top 10 defense in the NFL this year.
Wow.
And, you know, we go in and look, we're not stupid, folks. I mean, TJ Watt still had a pretty good year. He slow. Yes. He slouched off. Yes. I mean, could you imagine if he went at full board? Because he still had about 12 and a half sacks. Pretty damn good year. And everyone's kind of crapping on him, including, you know, us taking some shots at him tonight. But pretty good year. And, you know, so that's a guy, yeah, you can give him the money that you want, but there's what they have around him is crap. Detroit Lions, a lot of people couldn't name money guys on that defense. And, you know, the other thing with the Chiefs, Joe, to your point is, we've talked about this, the Chiefs have struggled a lot this year. They've been in a lot of close games, including against the Carolina Panthers, you know, and barely beat the Panthers, but their defense pulls them through. It's another top 5 defense in the NFL that a lot of people, other than maybe one or two players, they can't name one person on that Chiefs defense, but that's why the Chiefs are who they are. That's why the Chiefs have a chance of beating the Ravens, beating the Bills, you know, and that's what you have. It's really good. And then the Ravens, too. You look at the Ravens defense was actually the first 5 weeks of the season was like 26th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they have made a massive turnaround that ended up being 4th. So it's like, you know, where's that turnaround? Where's the Steelers turnaround? I mean, where was anyone saying, okay, guys, you need to step it up? I mean, were they tired of stepping it up? Where did the gas run out of the tank? Because it definitely ran out of the tank all over the place, and now it's a dumpster fire.
Where was the defense? Where was the person that said, hey, TJ Watt, maybe you should move around because it's very obvious what you do, and it's very obvious how to stop you because you stay in the same place all the time. Why don't you move around like Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons or something like that? I heard something today. He's like, well, I'm more open to doing that. Are you kidding me? You should be doing that all the time, dude. And,
Right.
and if he barely, yes, he had a good season overall, but after he got hurt in that Eagles game, he has basically been useless.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I heard him say that he was okay, and maybe I'm doing the opposite of what he said. I think Watt did say he was fine with moving around, so it might just be maybe Austin's or whatever, whoever's
coaching
thing. Yeah. I think Watt. I think I did read that he was, you know, because I think he knows he's more effective, right, when he moves around, because, you know, like you said, it's less.
If I'm another team, and I remember this was the only time he moved around was like 1 or 2 times in the Giants game, and I remember when that happened, the Giants freaked the heck out. They're like, oh my God. I mean, they just didn't know what to do. And I would imagine any team would be like that. It's like, okay, we know he's here. We know how to stop him. But if he moves around, it's like, okay, what do we do now? Like it's just so obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, even like you take a look at the Texans, they're kind of reeling a little bit, but their defense fought back, kept them in that game. And look at that. They're advancing. I don't think they'll get past Kansas City. They might not, but the way Chiefs have played this year, you don't know. But Texans defense, 4 picks yesterday on a quarterback that had been red hot coming into the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, where is that with us? And, you know, Cam Sutton's another point of contention for me too, Joe. Here's a guy who's pretty much, you know, I don't mean to get into this. He's a jerk off to begin with. You bring him back. And I even said when we brought him back, Joe, and I think Allison said it too, back in when we, you know, August. If you're going to bring him back, okay, you're going to shelf him. He better be damn good for the reasons you're bringing him back, considering the bag he's bringing in. And he got trucked yesterday multiple times. And, you know, he's usually he actually is a decent run stopper. He didn't do that at all yesterday. That was the reason you're keeping him in, is because he's a decent run stopper. And you took the one guy that was the ball hawk and picking it off and Beanie Bishop, and you sat him on the bench. These decisions make no sense. And whether you want to blame Terrell Austin or Mike Tomlin, or maybe Mike Tomlin has a guy in Terrell Austin that's not ready for the stage yet, or he's handcuffing him, I don't know what the hell the answer is, but it's not working in any way.
The Cam Sutton thing was an absolute disaster because not only, like you said, you put up with the stuff you're putting up with, you better he better be awesome. Not only was he not awesome, not only was he not even just okay, he was a liability. And you know who was good, who he took over for? Beanie Bishop, who every time Beanie Bishop was on the field, stuff happened. He would make interceptions, he would do things, but no, you have to play this schmuck who just who was out of position, who didn't know what the heck he was doing, and is a step slow. My God. What a disaster.
And that's the kind of the arc that you see, like with the Steelers in the early 2000s. They struggled a little bit, but then they go and get Ben. And I remember there's a very few times that I acted like Filipponi did 2 years ago and jumped off of my couch and went nuts because I'd seen that kid play. I was covering college football at that time. And I knew what he was capable of. And I texted, if my dad is watching right now, he knows. I texted him, this kid will take us to a Super Bowl. And he did. But you saw remember Troy Polamalu started out in special teams, right. And then he just started coming up, and you could start seeing this development of these players, right? You bring in, you brought in Larry Foote, you brought in these guys who are making a difference, and you saw this team develop. And I'm not seeing any of that now, even with TJ Watt.
Keyword is development. Keyword. Yeah. That's the key word. We've said it how many times tonight? Development and the lack thereof under Mike Tomlin and his assistant coaches.
Right. And now let's talk about another group that didn't develop, the offensive line. That offensive line coach, Pat Meyer, he should be gone
tomorrow
already. He should already have his desk cleaned out. He should have been gone 11:01 p.m. Saturday night.
He was a hire, Joe, where a lot of the Pittsburgh media were questioning that one, including myself and everybody else. It was like,
well, they showed improvement at the end of last season, right? Like they took some time to gel, to get together and whatnot. But they did seem to show improvement from the first half of the season to the second half, and I think that's ultimately why they ended up keeping him around. But what happened?
Nothing.
I know that the personnel, I know that, draft picks and young guys and things, but
and you're right. You said it before about not being able to develop a quarterback. Okay, that's one thing. You have not been able to develop this offensive line at all, and you've spent some very high draft picks on some big guys, and it's not coming to fruition at all. Total failure.
And you know why he's going to be fired? Broderick Jones.
Oh yeah,
Broderick Jones was pretty good last year, and this year took a step back. And whatever the heck is going on, and this whole BS of, well, you can't move Dan Moore, you can't move him to the right side because of his precious fragile ego. He just can't handle it, bro. Come on, you're a freaking professional, making millions of dollars with a leather thing. Go figure it out, jerk.
Yeah, it's been ugly, and that's the thing. And so now, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, Joe. You're talking about what's wrong with the Steelers. I mean, I think it's from ownership down is bad. The coaching staff is bad, and the players are bad. I really think you're on the precipice of being one of the bottom dwellers in the AFC North at this point, because the Browns are a quarterback away from being a fairly good team. But the Browns being the Browns, like they always are.
Yeah.
Like they always are. And, Deshaun Watson now has a torn Achilles. And, you're paying him the money you're paying him. And but like that, that's another thing. I said that to Joe too, Allison. I don't know if you were on that show, but we could have had Jerry Jeudy. But, we don't get Jerry Jeudy. Look at the difference Jerry Jeudy made. So we're going into this offseason with, Najee Harris is probably gone. I think that's one guy that's for sure gone. Dan Moore's most likely number 2 gone. And I think Minka's gone. So now
Minka's gone?
You think Minka's gone?
I think he's going to be gone.
Oh my God, please. Don't you get my hopes up like that.
Don't say that. I'm closing this laptop lid right now.
Right.
I want him gone. I don't know what the heck is going on with him, but Terrell Austin is fired. That's almost a guarantee. Pat Meyer is fired. That's almost a guarantee. But whatever is going on with Minka.
Yeah. He hasn't been good in the last couple seasons, but you wonder, is it him? It could be the combination of the two, but it's like he was money. He was fire. He was all those words that the kids use these days when he first came to Pittsburgh. The last couple years, you know what I mean? Like
You know why? Because he was still on his rookie contract when he first came to Pittsburgh. Do you remember when he was traded? He was traded, I believe, in week 3 of the season. It was because Ben had his blew out his elbow, I believe, in week 2 against the Seahawks. And then immediately we traded for Minka. And he played against the 49ers, and he didn't even have a full week of preparation. And he caused 2 fumbles. He intercepted. He was killing people. And now look at him. He's getting stiff-armed into oblivion by.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you didn't see Rod Woodson regress. You didn't see Troy Polamalu regress. You didn't see, a lot of those things. Even Washington, he came into his fruition. Mike Logan, and you're watching this guy just falter. And I just can't, either Terrell Austin or the DB coach has no idea what to do or what they're doing or how to fix it. And, maybe it's that mixed package where, well, who controls the defense? Is it Mike Tomlin or is it, Terrell Austin? Either way, it's not getting done, guys. I mean, it's just not getting done.
Right. And what's sad about the DBs struggling, Mike Tomlin, that's his roots, right? That's he's DB's coach.
Yep.
What is going on? What's going on?
Even in the week 19 of the season, their 18th game of the season, you had miscommunication. You had the Ravens scoring a touchdown, and then everybody looking at you just like, what just happened? What happened? Like, you're really having miscommunication at this point of the season. That is just unacceptable.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that game either, right? They were all just like.
Yeah, every game it was
4 games or so. They were all just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I don't, hands on their hips and things. And it's like, what? Yeah. Like, that's embarrassing, people. Like,
now
JV, right? JV.
But I mean, you say who goes, Joe. It's a good thing to post because the list is long and plentiful.
Well, let's go over this list because it is a lot of people. James Daniels gone.
Yep.
Najee. Gone. And really, he should have. I mean, I love that he tries hard, but he just does not have the speed.
I think
that's one thing they were right about for not picking up his 5th-year option.
Yeah.
Mike Williams gone.
Gone.
Nate Herbert.
Who?
Okay,
Who's
bring him back.
Mike Williams. What? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mike Williams.
I'm kidding,
yeah.
Man.
Arthur Smith doesn't know who Mike Williams is, but we know.
No, he doesn't.
A Landon Roberts. I'd really like to see them bring him back.
Yeah, I'd like to keep him too.
I would love to. DeMonte KZ. I don't really care. Dante Jackson. What the heck happened to that dude?
Right.
He just fell apart.
Another guy.
He's been playing with like a pinched nerve for like 3 or 4 games, right? Is that that's him, right?
Okay.
He's had a pinched nerve for a while.
Yeah.
Him. And Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen apparently was so sick that he needed like 4 bags of IV fluid.
Right.
If you're that sick, if you're that injured, you are not doing anybody any good playing out there, man. Go out there and just stay home. Just don't go. Like okay, thank you for trying. It's valiant that you try, but you ain't Michael Jordan in the flu game, man. You're doing more harm than good. If Dante Jackson is that beat up, we're fine with James Pierre or something like that. We would need they didn't even dress Corey Trice, and they didn't even dress Preston Smith either. What the heck?
Corey Trice played well the prior 2 weeks, actually. And I don't get some of these decisions, but I think they're gone. I think the other glaring thing there too, we talked about the quarterback thing earlier. You did quarterback switcheroo, which was just, we couldn't believe it last year when it happened. I don't think Russell Wilson comes back. I think they may take a shot at bringing in Fields and signing him. I don't know, but I think Russell Wilson's gone, or who knows, maybe they're both gone. I don't know. Kyle Allen's probably gonna stay, I guess, but
I would like to see them re-sign Fields and let Russ go, but it all goes back to the development of quarterbacks. If they re-sign Fields, they need to have a quarterbacks coach who can develop Justin Fields. He has the basis of it, right? He's got all the tangible parts and pieces and whatever that you need for a franchise quarterback. but he just hasn't had the guidance. He hasn't had that coaching that he needs to take it to the next level.
He
hasn't
could
had
be
that, yeah.
another Lamar Jackson. He has that potential.
Mm-hmm.
He runs better than Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
He has the potential to be the best running quarterback in the league. And
Yeah.
we saw glimpses of that, and for some reason they did not. They, the same crap in Chicago. They wanted him to be a pocket passer. Screw
Right,
that.
yeah.
Let him do his thing. Now, another thing that Justin Fields did was the offensive line sucked it, and when he played too, but he was so good at running away from them that he kind of minimized
Exactly.
how bad the offensive line sucked.
Mm-hmm.
The problem
when
is
you have the ability, when you have that athleticism that Fields has, it almost, obviously you want the protection from your offensive line first and foremost. However, when you don't have it, he had that ability to get the hell out of there,
the problem is too that no matter what you're doing, we still are, like I said at the beginning of the show, we have no identity. Like, okay, if it's Justin Fields, if he's a guy, okay, we know what we need to do. This is the way you need to build the team. If it's Russell Wilson, okay, we have no idea. And Russell Wilson, I think, played himself out of here. Had he had a decent, run there and brought the offensive back, and we would have won a game in the playoffs, he's probably here. He said yesterday, "Well, I want to come back." I don't know if I want him back. And again, I'm tempered on Justin Fields. We talk about, and before Wilson replaced him, the guy had 6 fumbles. Same problem he's having in Chicago. He recovered 5. We recovered 5 of them. The offense recovered 5. But that's going to get you booed out of the city real quick if you have 6 fumbles. And he got lucky. But then Russell Wilson, who doesn't turn over the ball in his career traditionally, one of the better plus-minus guys in that, and he starts turning the ball over everywhere. And to Allison's point, is there not a quarterback coach saying, okay, what were you thinking there? Were you seeing this? Were you seeing that? And he's just obviously not seeing the field at all. And that's the thing. We want to have an elite level quarterback. And right now, they really don't have that. And I don't know what the hell they're going to do in the offseason.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because we went from having, we have 2 quarterbacks on 1-year contracts. But when they both came in, we were like, oh, like no matter what happens, 50-50, right? For next year, not this year. Like we knew that this year was mainly going to be like, experimental, but at least we thought, well, hey, one of these 2 is going to end up being our quarterback for the near future. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, anyway, I'm just rambling, but, and now it's like, we're at the position where we don't want Russ back, maybe Fields. But it's like, if we don't re-sign Fields, then what do we do?
Then who?
Right?
Please, if someone says Aaron Rodgers, I will burn everything to the ground. Or Kirk Cousins.
No.
Okay. Now, maybe Sam Darnold. Okay, I would consider that. But what are the odds of getting him?
You're not going to win playoff games with either of those guys either. And that's the thing. Like I just, Aaron Rodgers, forget it. I mean, I can't imagine bringing a cancer like that to this team. Because that is all he is, and it will be just bad. And because, hey, ask the Jets fans how well it worked out in there. It didn't work out well at all. And he's, why you would have any inclination at Russell or Arnold or Aaron Rodgers is the guy. He's not the guy. No. He's definitely not the guy. You don't get better by getting older in this league, and I don't know how many people need to be told that, because you look contrarily what's happening with the Bengals right now. All of a sudden, all this chaos was starting to unfold and unravel. It all started coming back. Now T. Higgins wants to make it work. Jamar Chase wants to stay. They have a great quarterback. So the Bengals, again, we go back to the identity thing. They have an identity. They have one of the better offenses in the entire league. They had one of the worst defenses. So what's that tell you? We're okay on offense. We can probably add a few better offensive linemen to give us some better run and better support and protection. And now we start working our ass off on defense. And I'm telling you right now, the way things sit, 3 years from now, I think you're going to see the Bengals, or 2 years from now, the Bengals are going to be back competing for the division title and for a playoff spot, and we are still on a backslide because we have no idea.
They
Right.
have that thing that we desperately need, an elite quarterback. He's probably the third or fourth best quarterback in the entire league. It is very easy to build an offense and a team around that. And yeah, all they need is a halfway decent defense, and they're set. And they're a Super Bowl contender.
They are, and that's where I feel like, you guys want to bring Russell Wilson back. I don't even know if I want to see Fields back because of his turnover ability. I mean, he's been in the league now a decent amount of time. He still hasn't shown. If he was as good as you want him to be, then we would have had no reason to put Russell Wilson in. But
exactly. Don't you think, how many years is it going to be now? Like,
Right.
he's shown himself what he is. He's not going to magically get better. And yes, he did improve, this year compared to what he did in Chicago, but still he had those same issues.
Mhm.
Even when he slid wrong. I mean, for God's sakes, he couldn't slide
Right.
the first down.
Right.
He got a little bit better at the next game, but still, I just, you look at the Broncos, right? Now I know they got their asses kicked yesterday. However, it's a young defense on the rise. Bo Nix is turning out to be the guy I think a lot of us thought he was going to be.
Mhm.
He was a great pick for the Broncos. The Broncos have a quarterback to build on. You give that Broncos team a decent running back and some wide receivers and a tight end in the coming years, they're going to be competing against the Chiefs for the AFC West title. And that's where I see the Skyline guys. I don't see us competing or in position to compete at all for anything right now.
Mm-mm.
Yep.
Nope.
Yeah. I just can't believe. I mean, and it all comes from the top. I wonder if the fans are going to revolt. We're already seeing the media revolting. I wonder if the fans are going to revolt. I wonder if we're going to get to a point where, I mean, we got rid of Matt Canada by chanting "Fire Canada" at games,
Hockey
at
games,
Penguins games, at supermarkets, at churches, at at funerals, wherever people were gathered, people were screaming "Fire Canada." And you know what's a real easy thing to chant? Fire Tomlin.
Right.
Just saying.
It almost makes you wish that game on Saturday would have been in Pittsburgh, because I guarantee you the Boo Birds would have been heard.
Yeah.
They would have been heard. And that's the other thing. Steeler Nation's just done wrestle. I said this, and I think I saw it was either Adam Crawley or maybe Mark Cavalli that stated it too. Last week I was in Pittsburgh. I had to be there for about a day. I'm going around. I ran into Giant Eagle. There was nothing, Joe and Allison. You were up here for a long time. There was no, Steelers cookies, cakes.
Nope.
There was no Steelers jerseys on the people. Eaton Park, same thing. No Steelers. I mean, nothing. There's no buzz from this fan base. I bet you the TV ratings were horrible because nobody thought they had a chance, and they were right.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't going to win that game. And it's like there's no buzz from the fans. There's no buzz from the team. It is at a place right now. I don't think it's been since probably, for those of us that can remember this, Allison's a little younger than us, I think. It feels like 1985, 1986, where there was just nothing going on. They had no identity. They were old. They were worn out. And, it just – what happened? In 1987, they drafted Rod Woodson, and it started to get a little better. But, I mean, that's where we're at now, guys. I mean, I see not a lot of hope. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, but Debbie Darren Downer.
You're being very painfully realistic.
Another massive offseason. Last offseason was relatively good. The draft was relatively good. The free agents were okay, but here's a crazy idea. Maybe spend on offense. What I know that's impossible. Now, I believe they're going to have a lot of cap space.
Yeah. From what I was
in theory, they're
going to have a
something.
I see one of our commenters on there. I've seen him on Twitter. So he's kind of harping on the Aaron Rodgers thing. Here's the only thing I will say. Well, actually, no. A couple of years I would have said this. Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets is bad for both ways. The Jets are a horrible organization that don't know how to run that organization. Aaron Rodgers is a cancer. We all know it. Everybody does. The guy's an egomaniac jackass. I think the old Steelers, he could have came here and done something. then, but this Steelers thing, with the way it's going right now, it's not any better. It's not any better. Aaron Rodgers is not going to come here and immediately make them much better than what they are now. And here's the other thing, in defense of Aaron Rodgers a little bit, who the hell is Aaron Rodgers going to throw to?
Right.
Because
Exactly.
right now, I mean, because Wilson had no one to throw to. Justin Fields had no one to throw to. And George Pickens, I guess. But I mean,
they
that's
might have even less people to throw to.
Right.
Because what do you do with George Pickens? Do you bring him back with that attitude? With that, my goodness, what the most immature professional player I've ever seen, by a country mile.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown was crazy, but he excelled on the field.
Yeah,
George Pickens had to be talked to like, please come out and play. Please be professional. Please don't drop the ball. Please come out there. Like, you gotta be kidding me.
It hurts to say because of his production prior to the 2 games that he played after he returned from injury. But if the Steelers don't intend to re-sign George Pickens to a long-term deal, trade his ass. If you can get draft picks for him, draft capital or whatever for him, if you can get something for George Pickens while you have him.
What do you think you could get for him? A second?
I would think so. I would think a second.
I would think a second, maybe a third.
Maybe a second,
you use
and
one
like,
of those to get
like a later pick or something,
to get a wide receiver. And here you go. Right. Not a wide receiver that sucks like Roman Wilson.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you could. I guess you could say he sucks. I have a friend from Michigan who's probably watching right now would strongly disagree, and I actually really like the Roman Wilson pick, but he didn't get a chance.
Right.
And then they had him in a practice squad. They activated him like 2 weeks ago, but never used him. I don't understand that. It's almost like a Miles Austin 2.0 because it's like, what's he going to bring? But the other thing with Aaron Rodgers too, guys, is Devontae Adams, and he had some pretty decent weapons there, and he still couldn't get it done. He still couldn't get it done. He had better weapons in New York than he would have had in Pittsburgh with Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Breece Hall. He had better weapons in New York, and he still couldn't get it done. So Aaron Rodgers is not going to work out here.
Father Time is undefeated, and when you're too old, you're too old, and that's what scares me about Russell Wilson. We already saw him being too old, him thinking that he could scramble and run, and a lot of times that didn't work, either getting obliterated and giving up a fumble or doing God knows what. He is not, and that, like Russell Wilson is a Hall of Famer. It is amazing what he did with because he's so short. He's listed as 5'11". 5'11", my foot. Get out of here. Yeah. I think Allison's taller than him. I don't even know how tall Allison is.
I'm 5 foot, so I mean.
Okay. I think he's a couple inches taller than you. But no, it's amazing what he's done in his career. But I don't know how he's going to age. We saw Big Ben age, and it did not go well. We've seen Aaron Rodgers, these old quarterbacks, when they lose it, it's not a gradual decline. It's a cliff. I don't know. The thing about Russell Wilson,
unless you're Tom Brady,
exposed. Yeah, the thing about Russell Wilson, he got exposed is, and somebody said it on Hard Knocks. You're either 3-pointers or layups. You're either throwing it deep or you're chucking it down. But there is literally nothing intermediate, and that's been a knock on him for years.
Yeah,
you need a more complete quarterback.
Yeah, our best player is a kicker. And it's funny. I actually, it was kind of neat. I saw Chris Boswell liked my post on that. I said, the good news is he's a Pro Bowl kicker. He finishes the leading NFL scorer. The bad news is he finishes the leading NFL scorer. He's going to the Pro Bowl because you just never want your kicker to be the leading scorer. Very rarely do you see that, that's usually not the best thing. And it's great that he's going to be back. We have a great kicker.
Yeah, and he's the reason why we won 2 or 3 games.
Right, and the special teams coach has been fantastic this year. That's been good. Keep special teams coach. Got the rest, but I know they won't. But they won't do that. But that's the thing with Aaron Rodgers, guys. And that's the thing that scares me about anybody. It's not even such an Aaron Rodgers thing, in all due respect to the gentleman that's commenting. You're bringing a quarterback in here to a hell of a situation. Maybe they'll do some stuff in the offseason, but the offensive line not been good.
Just draft somebody always
something.
have. I don't know.
And this
I don't
is
know
not
what
a
I don't
great
know what
draft.
I don't know what the solution is. I
It's
don't
not a
know.
great draft for quarterbacks this year. Last year,
Yeah, it's
significantly
not
better.
Yeah.
um
I think
So
we have more questions now
we
than
do.
we did at the beginning of the podcast, right? I feel
Great.
like there's like I'm just like I'm sweating. There's a lot of anxiety. I'm just glad that we have what seems like a long time, before OTAs and whatnot. So
who sang that? We've only just begun. We've only just begun talking
Right.
about the offseason because that's all we have to talk about now.
Mhm.
My
Is
son said to
who
me,
are we
he
gonna
said,
draft? Who are we gonna lose? What's gonna happen with this? What's gonna happen with that?
my son
Because
said that to me today. He said, well, Steelers lost, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, so this is the end of the podcast for a while, right? And I'm like, no. I'm like, it's just beginning because,
Right.
it's
I mean, we kind of thought that last year, Joe. We were like, well, we finished it off and we had the wrap up show. But then it just started getting more and more interesting to the
Mhm.
point where we still had a show every week because there was always something interesting to talk about.
there was
And I think
always something
we're heading
going on,
right back
especially
down
with
that path. I mean, it's going to be
Yeah.
very interesting coming days to see who's gone, who's out. You have tomorrow is clean out your lockers day.
It was
yeah,
today.
the Mike Tomlin
Oh,
press
was it today?
conference.
Today.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, there was always a lot of good quotes. The Mike Tomlin press conference, and I alluded to that
Mm-hmm.
in Twitter too. Is like, last year we got the emotional Mike Tomlin. He came out and he's rambling about all kinds of crap.
Yeah.
Remember last year he said,
Word
I
salad.
could have won. I could have, I feel bad. I never got Pouncey a ring.
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe all that stuff's coming out. Maybe we're finally seeing a real traditional Tomlin. There was no Tomlinisms, no crap about hot dogs
Mhm.
and fear and everything
Painting
else.
Barnes red.
Right. That's a good one. But then, it's just I don't know.
Look at last year compared to this year. Last year they were 7-7 and they looked dead in the water, and they miraculously with Mason Rudolph won 3 in a row. They were going into the playoffs hot, and yeah, they were playing the Bills, and yeah, TJ Watt was hurt, and yeah, we really didn't have a chance, but hey, we finished strong. Yay, let's go. Look at this year.
Right.
5 in a row, and the way they lost. And another thing, yeah, we talked about the every single playoff losses has not even been close. But let's talk about how they start the game. Almost every single game this season has been a horrible start. No touchdowns in the first drive
20
on
games.
offense, and
20
almost
games.
always giving up a touchdown on the defense. The defense would just be so horrible that first drive. That's a lack of preparation. And then he was asked that every single week, and Tom was like, yeah, we're working on it. Shut up. I'm so sick and tired of the crap. Right, bro, it's time to have some real answers. And hey, media, it's time to start asking some real questions. Be more in-depth, be more probing, be more confrontational, because do not let that guy off the hook. He does not deserve it.
That's all the Pittsburgh media does, really. They just give him softball questions, and he gives word salad as a response.
Shut up.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I've been in there and I've been in that press room before, and I understand what you guys are saying, but I can tell you, like, you want to ask those questions, and I'll tell you this: sometimes if you ask the question, the reason those guys and girls don't always ask it is you can get blackmarked by the team, and afterwards, Tomlin can say, don't bring that girl back here anymore. I'm not answering her question first. So there's a hesitancy there.
Yeah.
And I understand that. Plus, it's so much more visible now, right? They see what you say on Twitter. They see what you say on Facebook or whatever it may be. So, yeah, Joe, I think you're not wrong, but it's just so tough to ask those questions.
You have to be diplomatic about it.
Yeah.
Right,
of
course.
It's just
there's a way to ask it.
Yeah. Our buddy Dave here said something, and I think he's right on the money here. He says multiple areas failing at the same time. And you're right, Dave. And that's the thing. There's so multiple areas here. They're going into a season where I don't know what the quarterback situation is. We don't know really what the running back situation is. The offensive line is a major concern. They have the receiving core is decimated. TJ Watt, let me go back to that real quick too. Here's the thing with TJ. That I kind of got this whole entire season. I think he still was, whether you want to call it being a baby, being a sore loser. I still think he was so pissed he didn't get defensive MVP last year, and he should have. I agree 100% he should have got over Myles Garrett. Those guys from Pro Football Forecast, which is a bunch of garbage, got that award for Myles Garrett last year. There's no way Myles Garrett should have won that award last year. None. And I'm not trying to be a Steeler fan. If I was still voting on something like that, I would have voted for TJ Watt every day of the week and twice on Sunday. There's no reason that Myles Garrett should have won that. And I think TJ Watt carried that with him all year.
I think you're right, because remember that game against Cleveland when Myles Garrett basically cut a pro wrestling promo on TJ Watt and said, "I'm better than you. You watch, I'm better than you." And he went out of that game, and Myles Garrett dominated, and TJ Watt did nothing.
Well, not only that, but then my thing to that, Joe, when we did that show, was he didn't do anything the following weeks. I said, well, if this doesn't light a fire under that guy's ass, I don't know what will. And it didn't. There's not been any fire. So one of the speculations is, do they trade TJ Watt? That would bring a hefty return.
It's his final year. This year is the final year of his contract. Yep. So if they're gonna do something, that's another decision they gotta make. Is what do you do with TJ Watt?
The return would be huge, I think, because you have some stupid teams out there, right? Look what the Browns gave up for Deshaun Watson. You put TJ Watt on the market, and I guarantee you only get the stupids coming out, like the Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Jets. Somebody will give up 2 first-round picks and what else? God knows what else for TJ Watt. I think you can get a lot more. I love TJ Watt. I don't have a lot of jerseys. I don't have a lot of jerseys.
Teams.
I have
the Steelers just need to be willing to do it, right?
Yep.
They haven't shown historically that they have been willing to make any kind of major moves, because something like that could end up getting us a quarterback or a pick to get a quarterback. So it
would be a PR disaster, but then again, so is keeping Tomlin.
Right. Yeah.
And the phrase is the standard is the standard. Well, what the hell is the standard anymore?
There is no
we can't
standard.
even win a damn playoff game.
I don't know what that standard is now.
I think the Rooneys are going into the territory. I don't want to say Bob Nutting. I don't want to say, but I think they're just happy to be an iconic franchise that's always going to be popular. And it's like the Chicago Cubs or the Boston Red Sox or the Dallas Cowboys or something like that. It's a brand. It's a worldwide brand. Mm-hmm. People are always going to come. They will come, Ray. They will. You built it. They will come. They will always. People will always. They will always sell out Acupuncture Field. But at some point, you got to. It's almost like they're just happy being complacent and being this situation, because that's what you say when you keep Tomlin.
Mm-hmm. It's just top to bottom this season too. I mean, the 300 yards they gave up yesterday, which is not, I don't remember any Steeler defense doing that well, at least in the playoffs. You can talk about some of those 80s teams doing that. The whole thing with George Pickens earlier complaining about playing in the snow. You show me one freaking Steeler that ever complained about playing in the snow. It's just things like that. It's just, it's just rampant, irresponsible talking and, adolescent crap. And that's the thing. Like, do I want to see TJ Watt traded? No, I'd love to see him retire Steeler. But I'm telling you now, because once again, we're picking what, Joe? 21st, 20th? Mm-hmm. And you might land somebody, but they've been picking around that spot the last couple of years and it hasn't proved to be too well. You pick Kenny Pickett 20th, that was a disaster. And you could have had a lot more better guys. Let me tell you, we could run it. We could have a show about that right away. Trading TJ Watt may be about the smartest, sexiest thing that they could possibly do this coming season.
What do you think they do? What do you think? Like, let's say they just stay at 20 or 21 or whatever. What position do you think they should target? Wide receiver, defensive line, quarterback.
Yeah. If you trade TJ Watt,
all the above.
All the above.
Yeah, exactly.
Wide receiver is probably the most glaring answer. Like if to this guy's point, you bring in Aaron Rodgers, well, you better go find, the top receiver and bring him in. That's what I mean. If you trade TJ Watt, then all kinds of things come to fruition. You're probably getting 2 first-round picks this year, the one you have. and you demand that for this year. And yeah, I mean, you don't think the Giants wouldn't give a hard consideration for TJ Watt,
Right.
or somebody like that? The Giants could say, we'll give you a second round this year because they're not going to give up their number 2 pick, right? I think they're picking number 2 or number 1. Giants are not going to give away their number 2 pick, but we'll give you a first round pick next year. That's how you start building back up.
Yeah. We all love TJ Watt, right? Everybody does. There's not one member of Steeler Nation that says I hate TJ Watt.
Right.
But we have to think about what's best for the franchise going forward, right? And we need offensive talent. You know what I mean? Like, he's 30, right? He's 30 years old. His best days are probably behind him, but he's going to go. If he does go somewhere, he's still going to have some years in the tank. You know what I mean? He's still going to be able to do some things. So we need to have return.
His cap hit in 2025 is $30.4 million. You gotta be kidding me. That's almost quarterback money. Yeah, he's good. Is he $30 million good? Come on.
He hasn't
right
been
now. No. And I guess when you look at that, and I've always said this, I mean, they're all the teams that had great players. Like, you take Bruce Smith, right? Now, I know the Bills didn't win a Super Bowl, but that Bills defense had a hell of a lot of other players besides Bruce Smith on it, right? You take a look at the Steel Curtain. I mean, how many Hall of Famers were on that? Or even look at the Steelers and won 2 Super Bowls recently. You had a very good defense full of a lot of capable players. Harrison, Polamalu, just keep on going. I'm drawing a mind blank. But, Mike Logan. You had a lot of guys, Larry Foote. You had a lot of guys that were Woodley. And you had a lot of guys that were great players on that team. And you can't just be paying $30 million for a TJ Watt and nobody else because these other guys aren't putting it up. It just it just isn't working out. And you're right, Joe. He's 30. You take a look wait till the season ends, because a lot of these teams, even these teams that just are in the playoffs and got out, you're not telling me the Denver Broncos wouldn't be licking their lips, or I hate to say it, the Bengals. I mean, I have no fear.
Don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Bengals will get up the damn farm to get a guy like TJ Watt.
I'd trade Watt for Burrow.
Right.
And that's pretty much it.
Right.
I would
Question: would you say the Philadelphia Eagles have a pretty good defensive line?
Yeah.
Would you say it's a good line or good line?
Yeah.
I just looked at their salary cap. The most expensive person on their offensive line is Josh Sweat, and he's making $16 million, and that's it. They're basically, my point is, you could take the $30 million you're paying TJ Watt, spread that around other people, and have like depth, and have keep at them with different lines and stuff. Paying one person, putting all your eggs in one basket, it is not working, and it especially doesn't work with TJ Watt, who fades almost every single year, whether through injury or whatever. The season is too long for him.
Yep. And like I said, I love the guy, but I mean, I love the franchise more.
Yeah.
And if you can get a big return, which I think they could, then you do it.
It's the Ralph Kleiner quote: "We don't win championships with you. We can not win championships without you."
Right. That's a good quote. Yeah. And so, that's what you do. It's actually a decent running back draft. It's last year's running back was horrible. This draft is loaded with running back talent. I mean,
get that Boise State guy. He did really well against Penn State.
You could argue he didn't play a lot of great teams, but you watch him play, and he's something special. I would not have a problem drafting him in the first round. I would be okay with that.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with that.
Doesn't he have like a funny name too? Like,
Genetti, right?
Oh, I was thinking of
Marty
Genetti.
Marty Genetti,
yeah. Marty Genetti,
he's gonna get kicked through the glass.
That was 33 years ago, 2 days ago, and it's still the best quote ever. Bobby Heenan go, "Did you see that? He tried to dive out that window."
He's such a coward. He tried to.
I knew he was gonna
It's one of the greatest lines ever.
That's the greatest line, Bobby Heenan. So guys, and that's the thing. A lot of times my wife's actually sitting in the room. She's not right now, but. The podcast will go on because we have a lot to talk about.
We're just getting started. I would like to say that I feel better after getting this all off my chest. Now I'm even more angry.
This isn't therapy. This is
I'm gonna go punch a wall.
Yeah.
Somebody else's wall. I'm not gonna do damage to my own house. I'm gonna
Fly to Allison's house, get high, and play with the cats.
Exactly. That's how
On
I
that
roll.
note, I think we should end. Thank you for everybody for watching.
Yeah, thanks for the
Please-
commenters, right?
Yes, thanks for the
Yeah.
commenters. Hi,
Great.
Dave. Just saw you yesterday. Please like and subscribe. The Donut Bag Podcast on YouTube. I need way more subscribers on YouTube. I got plenty of followers on Twitter. I need more subscribers on YouTube. Come on, let's get that, because
on,
when you
people.
subscribe on
Come on, people.
when you subscribe on
Smash that
YouTube,
button.
you can
Phones are
comment
waiting.
like Dave and the Yins Nation Sport did. So
Phone
yeah,
lines
join
are
the
open.
conversation. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks
guys.
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye,
Yep.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.